What if I told you there was a species that could survive freezing temperatures, hunt massive beasts with primitive tools, and endure physical challenges that would break the strongest among us? Neanderthals weren't just another step in evolution, they were nature's ultimate outlier. With strength, intelligence, and resilience that bordered on superhuman, these ancient beings were unlike anything the world had ever seen. But what made them so extraordinary? And how did they disappear while we, their less durable cousins, inherited the Earth? Stay tuned, because this is the untold story of the Neanderthals, the greatest freaks of nature to ever walk the planet. If Neanderthals were alive today, some might even consider them superhuman in many ways. From a distance, you probably wouldn't notice their differences from modern humans at first glance, but their height might stand out as a key distinction. While they were, on average, about 14 centimeters or roughly 5.5 inches shorter than post-World War II human population. This comparison doesn't tell the full story. The tallest Neanderthal ever discovered, known as a mud one, measured about 1.78 meters, or 5 foot 10 inches, certainly not towering by modern standards. However, when compared to European populations 20,000 years ago, Neanderthals were actually equally tall or even slightly taller, depending on the group. So, when it comes to their height, there's still much we don't fully understand. What's truly fascinating, though, isn't how tall they were, but how much they weighed. Despite being shorter than modern humans, Neanderthals were significantly heavier. The average male could weigh up to 83 kilograms or 183 pounds, while females averaged around 66 kilograms or 146 pounds. That made them about 20% heavier than Homo sapiens of their time. And no, this wasn't due to extra body fat. Neanderthals were built differently, with incredibly robust skeletons and compact frames. Their bones weren't just thicker, they were often twice as dense as ours, resulting in a frame built for strength and resilience. Their shoulders, femurs, triceps, chest, and even kneecaps were massively developed, leaving little doubt that they were far stronger and more muscular than us. Their powerful physique wasn't just for show, it was likely an adaptation for their up-close and personal hunting tactic. Picture this: Neanderthals wielding enormous spears to take down massive prey. We're talking rhinos, horses, elephants, and the mighty woolly mammoth, an animal as big as today's African bush elephant, but with a dense coat of fur that made it even harder to kill. The sheer strength and teamwork it took to bring down these giants is mind-blowing. And speaking of African bush elephants, they're a sobering reminder of how fragile the balance of nature can be. Within just 3 generations, 50% of their global population has vanished. It's a heartbreaking parallel to the extinction of the woolly mammoth, which is why I'm thrilled to share an incredible initiative helping protect today's endangered species. And it's a cause I'm deeply passionate about. Let's keep these animals off the extinction list and make a real difference together. Like the global decline in elephant population, Tanzania has also faced a devastating loss of its elephants since the 1970s. To make matters worse, farmers have been expanding their land into the elephants' natural habitats and migration routes, leading to increasing conflict and tragic casualties. But here's where Planet Wild and their partner, Wild Survivors, have come up with a brilliant and surprisingly simple solution: tiny bees creating a big impact. Instead of releasing swarms of bees on elephants, don't worry, it's not that dramatic. They've introduced the concept of a bee fence. By strategically placing beehives along the borders of farmlands, this natural barrier keeps elephants out of harm's way as they instinctively avoid bees. It's a win-win. Farmers protect their crops, and elephants avoid deadly encounters with humans. And the bee fence is just one of many fascinating projects that Planet Wild supports. They launch new conservation initiatives every month, and what's even better, they're completely transparent about how every dollar is used. Each month, they upload a YouTube video showing exactly where the funds go and how the community's support makes a difference. I personally joined because it's an incredible way for anyone to contribute to protecting nature, no matter how big or small the donation. Speaking of, if you're passionate about saving the planet, I highly recommend joining too. You can donate any amount, and for the first 150 people who sign up, I'll even cover your first month. Just scan the QR code on the screen, use my code EXTINCT10, or click the link in the description or pinned comment. If it's not for you, no worries, you can cancel anytime. Now, let's get back to the mind-blowing strength and resilience of the Neanderthal. Their frequent use of massive spears for hunting wasn't just a survival tactic, it's likely what gave them their distinct Popeye arms. According to some studies, which contributed to their astonishing feats of strength. Imagine this: a Neanderthal hauling 50 pounds or 27 kilograms of meat across a distance of 30 miles, equivalent to walking 138 laps around a soccer field. That's just a regular day for them. And with their bulky chest, broad shoulders, and powerful triceps, it's no surprise that scientists believe Neanderthals would have excelled as wrestlers or powerlifters. Males might have been capable of bench pressing 500 pounds or 100 kilograms with no training, while females could potentially lift up to 350 pounds. or 160 kilograms. To put that into perspective, even 2/3 of these numbers would be considered elite by today's standard. Their short, stocky builds not only gave them unmatched power, but also incredible durability, an essential trait given the brutal lives they endured. Studies of their skeletons reveal that 79% to 94% showed evidence of extreme trauma that have fully healed. We're talking broken bones, smashed skulls, and even traumatic amputation. One particularly grim example involves an elderly Neanderthal who, earlier in life, had lost his right arm, shattered his left clavicle, and suffered a blow to the face so severe that it left him blinded in one eye. As if that wasn't enough, repeated injuries to his ears caused new bone growth to block his ear canals, leaving him completely deaf. Yet, he survived long enough for these wounds to heal, proof of their extraordinary resilience and the strong social bonds that likely ensured his survival in such harsh conditions. The extensive damage found in Neanderthal skeletons tells a story of relentless survival in a dangerous world. Scientists attribute their injuries to a mix of intense face-to-face hunting methods, violent interpersonal clashes, and frequent animal encounters. Surprisingly, animal attacks seem to have been a routine hazard for Neanderthals. According to one study, nearly 74% of Neanderthal remains show evidence of surviving violent encounters with animals. Even more fascinating are the details. 21% of these injuries were linked to big cats, 17% to wolves, and a staggering 36% to bears. But here's the jaw-dropping part. Researchers believe these weren't predatory attacks. Instead, it's thought that Neanderthals were the aggressors, and the animals fought back in self-defense. Let that sink in for a moment. These people were so fearless, they regularly went after apex predators and lived to tell the tale. Their toughness didn't stop there. Even their skin seemed battle-ready. Genetic evidence suggests Neanderthals had thicker skin, nails, and hair, which helped them handle brutal injuries and endure freezing climate. Their bodies were packed with adaptations that supported this rugged lifestyle. Take their joints, for example. Neanderthal joints were significantly larger than ours, enabling them to perform grueling movements that would push modern humans to their limits. Their hands, while not necessarily bigger, were uniquely shaped. They had wider fingertips and thumbs that angled outward more dramatically than ours, which likely changed how they gripped objects. While this might have reduced precision, they more than made up for it with a crushing grip that allowed them to wield weapons and tools with raw power. And if you think their external build was impressive, wait until you hear about what was going on inside. Neanderthals were essentially built to outperform us in terms of raw lung power. Their barrel-shaped chest housed wider rib cages and much larger lungs. On average, they had 20% greater lung capacity than modern humans, and some exceptional individual, like the famous Kibbered specimen, could hold up to 9 liters of air in their lungs, a staggering 40% more than what the average man can manage today. For comparison, the largest lung capacity ever recorded in an athlete was 8.5 liters, meaning Kibbered 2 could literally outbreathe even our best-trained Olympian. Their massive lung capacity was perfectly complemented by their large noses. Neanderthal noses weren't just long and wide for show, they were highly efficient air processing system. These noses moved air through their bodies at twice the speed of any modern human, an essential adaptation for supporting their heavier builds and dealing with frigid climate. This unique respiratory system allowed them to take in massive amounts of oxygen, keeping their larger muscles fueled and helping them maintain higher metabolic rates to offset the heat loss they experienced in the cold. Speaking of energy, their calorie needs were off the charts. Neanderthals are estimated to have required anywhere from 4,500 to 6,700 calories per day. If they were still around today, we'd probably see separate nutrition labels for Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. Their big, bulky noses had another hidden advantage: they helped warm and humidify the freezing air they inhaled. But despite their incredible breathing capabilities, Neanderthals weren't built for endurance like us. They weren't the type to chase prey for miles until exhaustion set in. Instead, they were sprinters, designed for short bursts of speed and power. One clue to this lies in their toes. Neanderthals had long, wide toes that stayed in contact with the ground longer, enabling them to generate explosive power for quick starts. While they might not have run marathons, they were undoubtedly masters of short-distance sprints and power-packed ambush. Another factor that set Neanderthals apart from modern humans was their short leg bone. This feature wasn't ideal for endurance running, where longer legs help cover more ground with each stride. It gets even more intriguing when you look at their Achilles tendon. Unlike today's top endurance athletes, who have short, stiff, and wide Achilles tendons built for storing and releasing energy efficiently, Neanderthals had long, narrow Achilles tendons that weren't as effective for prolonged running. Their build was clearly all about short, powerful burst rather than marathon-level stamina. But their lower body features weren't the only giveaway. The real smoking gun lies in their muscle fiber. If you've ever taken a DNA test like 23andMe, you might know that humans have two primary types of muscle fibers: fast-twitch and slow-twitch. Fast-twitch fibers are great for explosive power and speed, while slow-twitch fibers excel at endurance. While modern humans have a mix of both, Neanderthals had a significantly higher concentration of fast-twitch fiber. This would have been perfect for their hunting style, which depended on quick, high-energy bursts to ambush prey. In short, if a Neanderthal showed up at your local track meet, you might beat them in a marathon, but a sprint, you wouldn't stand a chance. Interestingly, Neanderthals didn't just have brawn, they had brains too. Their skulls housed massive brain cases, with male brains averaging about 1,640 cubic centimeters and female brains around 1,460 cubic centimeters. That's roughly 30% larger than the average brain size of modern humans. While brain size alone doesn't equate to intelligence, these big brains were still a clue to their impressive cognitive abilities. Neanderthals weren't just surviving, they were thriving in many ways. They were skilled hunters, tool makers, and caretakers. They even engaged in artistic expression and likely had some form of complex communication. In other words, they were much smarter than the outdated stereotype of a dumb caveman. That said, bigger doesn't always mean better. Despite their brain size, Neanderthals weren't necessarily more mentally advanced than us. Their brains had a different structure, being more rounded and bomb-shaped, which allowed them to process information differently. Much of their brain power was devoted to controlling their larger bodies and sharpening their senses, especially smell and vision. In fact, their occipital lobes, the area of the brain-tie division, were unusually large. And here's where things get even cool. Neanderthals had remarkably large eyes, estimated to be about 15% bigger than ours based on the size of their eye sockets. This gave them sharper vision and even a distinct advantage in low-light conditions, which would have been a huge help in their cold, dim environment. But those big eyes needed more processing power, which might explain why their brains were so massive. Some researchers think their large visual system may have come at the expense of other cognitive areas, leaving less room for things like social networking. Combine their big eyes, big noses, and overall larger skulls, and you've got a head that wasn't just built for smarts, but also for strength. These oversized noggins required sturdy necks to support them. Neanderthals weren't just intellectual powerhouses, they were physical marvels, built for a life of constant challenges in a way that's hard to imagine today. When it comes to their heads, Neanderthals didn't just have bigger skulls, they had elongated, forward-projecting ones, giving their appearance a distinct and striking profile. Their facial features followed the same pattern, being noticeably supersized compared to modern humans. This included thick, wide jaws and large, sturdy teeth that initially led researchers to believe Neanderthals possessed an otherworldly bite force capable of cracking through bones, tough meat, and even gritty or abrasive foods. The idea of a Neanderthal chomping through anything in their path might sound fitting for their rugged image. But as it turns out, that wasn't exactly the case. Studies on their bite force revealed that, while strong, it wasn't as extraordinary as once thought. In fact, their bite strength was well within the upper range of modern human, clocking in at around 700 Newton. To put this into perspective, a bite like that could certainly hurt, possibly enough to make you regret ever getting on their bad side, but it likely wouldn't cause catastrophic damage most of the time. This raises an interesting question. Why would Neanderthals evolve to have such massive jaws and teeth if not for delivering bone-crushing bites? One intriguing theory suggests that their oversized jaws and teeth weren't necessarily built for power, but for versatility. Researchers propose that Neanderthals used their teeth almost like a third hand, gripping and manipulating objects while their actual hands were busy with other tasks. This idea gains credibility from the wear and tear patterns seen on Neanderthal teeth, particularly the front teeth, which show damage inconsistent with chewing or eating. These patterns are unique to Neanderthals, suggesting frequent use of their teeth to hold or maneuver tools and materials. Essentially, their teeth weren't just for eating, they were multitaskers, playing an active role in their survival and daily activities. Even so, their teeth still played a significant role in their diet, as Neanderthals were hypercarnivore, meaning that more than 70% of their caloric intake came from meat. Isotopic analysis of their remains has consistently shown that they consumed large quantities of meat, which would have been necessary to sustain their massive caloric needs, up to 6,700 calories a day in some cases. This meat-heavy diet likely required strong, durable teeth to process the food efficiently, which may explain why their teeth were not only large, but also incredibly robust. Their dentition wasn't just practical, it was essential for their survival in harsh, unforgiving environment. Now, you might be wondering, what does all this mean for people today who carry traces of Neanderthal DNA? Does it give you super strength, an insatiable craving for steak, or some hidden survival advantage? Well, the truth is a bit less dramatic. Most studies suggest that the impact of Neanderthal DNA on athletic performance or physical traits is fairly subtle. You're not likely to inherit the ability to hunt mammoths or crush bones with your teeth just because you carry a few Neanderthal genes. However, where things get more interesting is in how their DNA has influenced internal systems. Emerging research points to potential links between Neanderthal DNA and aspects of our immune system, metabolism, and even susceptibility to certain diseases. For example, some genes inherited from Neanderthals may help modern humans fend off infection, while others could influence how we respond to allergens or process certain nutrients. That said, the field is still rife with debate, as studies often conflict with one another, and researchers have yet to reach a consensus on the full extent of Neanderthal DNA's impact. What is clear, though, is that their legacy lives on in ways we're only beginning to understand, reminding us that our ancient relatives were far more complex and capable than we once believed.